Hey members, Charles Lewis here, and welcome to How to Get the Right People to Decide to Hire You Right Now. No guesswork, no hoping, no waiting, no losing sleep overnight, every night. And I can add more things, but you get the idea. Very excited about what we're going to cover today. Joining me, of course, today is my son and business partner, Todd. Hi, Todd.
Hello, Dad. And you have no idea in prepping for this how many times I had to look at that title and make sure it said no hoping and not no hopping. Because you know what? You're going to be hopping. You're going to be hopping with joy at the number of clients you've got coming in. But, no guesswork, no hoping, no waiting. I'm thrilled to be here too. What we're going to be talking about today, we're recording this during the holiday season, but everything we're going to be talking about today will apply year-round. We may bring up a couple of specifics about the holiday season, things like that, but this is designed to be a wonderful way for you to look at the marketing you're doing, look at what you should be doing, look at what maybe you're not doing, and find the best way to be bringing clients in, regardless of what types of photography you do. I mean, within portrait and wedding photography, obviously, but, families, weddings, children, seniors, executive portraiture, model portraiture, whatever it is. And regardless of what time of year it is and where in the country, in the world you live, because it's all based on the one thing we all have in common, which is basic human psychology. We're all different as human beings, absolutely. We're all unique creatures. We're all snowflakes in the best way possible. I mean that, in that we are all unique like a snowflake, but snowflakes also have a lot of things in common, not the least of which is they're made of water and they're all cold. I'm not saying we're all cold, but we all have similarities is what I'm saying. That's what the psychology is that all of this is based on.
Right on, Todd. Thank you. And also joining us today from the great state of Maine is great photographer and business person extraordinaire, Mr. Thomas Morelli. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Chuck. Hi, Todd. Todd, in all the years, I don't know, 10, 15 years of working together or longer, I've been a student, of course, for 30 some odd. That was one of the best top of the head speeches you've ever given. You could go to graduations. That was great.
Hey, maybe I've got a new gig I could do. You mean I could go do,
right.
make the college circuit doing?
Absolutely. You could send those kids off in style.
I thought it said, thank you.
No guesswork, no hoping, and no waltzing. I had to clean my glasses. I thought we're not going to be able to dance through this thing. But I cleaned my glasses and it reads no waiting. I tried to pay my bills when I first started with guesswork, hoping, and waiting. It didn't work. So those aren't going to be the things that are going to accelerate your career and get your phone ringing and get you booked with great clients. So that's what we're here to talk about today. It's great to be here, gentlemen, and our guests.
Yep, students. Real quick, couple housekeeping things here, one of which is not listed on here. So I'm going to start with this one, and that is for those of you that are attending this program live for our members only, you have the opportunity to ask us questions throughout this event. We are not going to have just an end question period. We like to take questions throughout because if you have a question, we want to get it answered right away when it comes up, when you think of it. So utilize that questions box in the GoToWebinar control panel. If anything we're talking about is not clear, if you need something clarified, something followed up, please do not hesitate to reach out and let us know. And Dad, maybe you can keep your eye on that questions box for us as we go.
Sure will, Todd.
Fantastic. A couple other quick housekeeping things. Pay close attention. Tom, my father, and I put a lot of time and effort into putting this together for you today. Our goal is the same goal you should have, which is to make sure that it is effective for you. And I'm talking to you, not you, but you. And make sure the only way that happens is if you pay very close attention. Don't multitask. Try not to be checking emails or going on social media and stuff like that, or God forbid, watching a YouTube video in the background while you're doing this. Pay close attention to this. Take great notes. And one of my favorite things to say is treat this as if you're paying $5,000 to be here today. If you just thought about it that way, you as members are not paying $5,000 to be here today. You're not paying nearly that much, but that's what this could be worth to you 10 times over, 20 times, 100 times over, because this stuff will be evergreen and you can use it forever. So think of it as if you paid $5,000 to be here for this event today, and then take action on what you discover here today. It's not enough to just come and listen. It's not enough to think that, you know, osmosis will work. If I just listen and watch, it will just wash over me and magically the stuff will happen. You do have to take action, but our goal is to give you the specific, clear, concise, and proven actions for you to take, so you don't have to guess. You don't have to guess, you don't have to hop or hope, and you don't have to waltz or wait. Dad, Tom, anything you want to add to the housekeeping before we jump in?
Oh, I'm good. Go ahead, Tom.
I've got my broom ready, and I've cleared the decks myself, so let's roll.
Love it.
You know, we are really lucky to get to do what we love to do and get well paid for doing it. I've done that for 43 years because of what you're going to talk about here today. And just remember, we are first and foremost marketers and sellers of photographic services. So when people asked me in the beginning, you know, what do you do? I said, I'm a photographer. Well, technically, yes, you take photographs, create portraits. However, that's really not what your business side is. That's not what you do. We market and then sell. We don't use that word a lot, but in this phrase we do. Marketing and sellers of photographic services. That encompasses the soup to nuts, if you want, from marketing and client acquisition to how we work with them, our system, to the end where we go to their home to put their photographs up for display. It's the whole thing. And so remember that you're not just, quote unquote, just a photographer. That's part of what you do, but that's not the whole thing.
And this is so important to keep in mind constantly, because I want you to ask yourself of that. You know, when you wake up in the morning and you get yourself going and you know, that alarm goes off, you pop up out of bed and you're starting your day. Are you thinking in your mind, all right, well, as a photographer, got to go out there and take photographs today? Or are you thinking, you know, as a marketer and seller of photographic services, today is going to be a great day for me to connect with existing clients and connect and build an emotional connection with potentially new clients? Because that's what you should be thinking about first. The photography is second. It's kind of the way I like to look at it as, is I like to think of our boy, I wasn't planning on saying this, so I hope this analogy works. It's just coming to me right now. I like to think of our photography business as like our bodies, okay? Our bodies require certain things in order for them to function, in order for them to do what they're supposed to do. The main three things we need at the most basic level are food, water, and oxygen, right? Without those things, our body will not do what our body is supposed to do. And of those three things, what's the thing we need the most? Well, I mean, we need food, absolutely. We need water, you bet. But boy, you stop breathing, you're dead in minutes. You can go for days without water, weeks, sometimes even more, months without food if you absolutely had to. But how long are you going to last without air, without oxygen? And so the same thing goes for our business. Yes, the photography has to be there. That's one of the top three things we've got to have in order for our photography business to do what it's supposed to do. But it's not as important as that oxygen that is our marketing and our selling ability, because without those, you're not going to need the photography. The food's not going to matter if you stopped breathing. So that's why it's so important. When you get up in the morning, think of yourself first as a marketer and seller of photographic services and as a photographer second. Dad, anything you want to add before we move on?
Yeah, that reminds me of the late, great Gary Halbert, a fantastic marketer, just one of the all-time greatest. And he always said, marketing is the oxygen of your business.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't remember that, but I'll bet some of that seeped in somewhere. You know, it must. Yeah, it is. It's the oxygen because it's number one. It's most important. Absolutely.
Yep.
And love. You know, love is pretty important too. Yep. You know, but an awful lot of people live without love, and it's really sad. But the oxygen is so important. So love your work. That's the other thing. Make sure that you love as much of your work as you possibly can, including the marketing and the selling. The more you can love it, and everything we're talking about on the Online Vault and through these programs are also designed to help you love doing it as much as knowing that you need to do it. Okay. So Tom, quick question for you before we jump in here, because hey, we're talking about bringing in the right clients, how to bring them in, you know. How have things been going for you the last few weeks or so? And what about over the course of the whole year?
It is going great, and great's one of those generic words, so I'll try to be a little more specific. Everything that I'm doing right now, photographically speaking, all the family groups, which is primarily what I'm doing for photography, plus baby plan, and a few holdover high school seniors that don't need to have their yearbook in until December. Those are the three things. Families are big this time of year, but I didn't just start. I've been marketing for them all year round, of course, and a lot of them are either repeat clients or auction and charity clients, or social media posts that I did, and we'll talk more about those. But so I am as busy as I want to be, that's for sure. And just to give you sort of quantify, usually it's about 2 or 3 families a week, 2 or 3 baby plans a week, and a senior a week. That's sort of an average between now and December 5th or so, which will be my cutoff for Christmas and holiday delivery. Of course, then we still have bookings in December for after Christmas delivery. So going busy, you got to allow time for imaging. You have to allow time for projection appointments and for order pickups, and of course, returning messages. So I am still doing 40 hours, no nights, no weekends, but I'm as busy as I can be in that regard.
And to clarify, Tom, when you say 40 hours a week average,
yeah.
So that includes everything having to do with your photography business, the marketing, the selling, the in-person sales during the projection session, the photographic session itself, the editing of the images, everything?
Yeah, and remember, this time of year, of course, we do have some overflow. There are days where we have maybe a 4 o'clock sunset time for sessions, and then I have to come in and download, archive, maybe even do a little bit of imaging work to get orders ready. So sometimes it ekes into the 6 or 6:30 this time of year, but I try not to break that rule very often.
Excellent. Dad?
Yeah, and I was just going to mention that don't forget, included in all of that Tom was just talking about was the telephone answering as well,
Yes.
Right, Tom?
You bet. Yeah, we still get a lot of phone calls, instant messages, and direct messages through Facebook, and of course email and other inquiry, over the transom, I call it, to use an old term. But it all ultimately boils down into picking up the phone and connecting with that person, whether they call you or we set up a time to talk to each other, or to set up a time to come in and chat in person, of course, ultimately. So yeah, the phone cannot be ignored. And right now, I'm working by myself right now, just because after COVID, my person left and decided not to come back. So I'm doing just what I can to keep everything going. And one of the benefits of talking directly on the telephone for me is the connection is immediate. I get to know people right away. They get to know me more personally just by my voice. And that phone call really connects me with a lot of people. And I hate to brag, but I think my booking rate is better than anybody I've ever hired, even though I have had some great people. But when people get, Tom, I get to talk to Tom, they really enjoy that.
Right on. So just another reminder, Todd already mentioned this, but everything we're going to be revealing today applies all year round with all of your marketing, even though there will be a couple things I'm sure where we will mention the holidays. But this is a huge part of your life. If you don't embrace this and really throw your heart and soul into it, your photography business will not get where you really are dreaming of having it going.
Let's jump into some main key points. So we kind of broke this event into kind of 3 sections. You'll kind of see as we go kind of how those sections come together. I wanted to start with some overarching key points about what it is you do as a photographic a marketer and seller of photographic services. Number 1, stop doing nothing, or stop doing the stuff that doesn't work. Now, this is where the tough love comes in, and I've got to ask you, and the tough love isn't coming from us. The tough love needs to come from you to you. Ask yourself the tough questions. When it comes to marketing, when it comes to getting the phone to ring, when it gets to getting people to contact me and inquire about what I do, am I really doing enough? Am I doing anything? Or am I just hoping that today is the day that phone will magically ring? Or am I hoping that today is the day that one of my clients will refer somebody to me? Or am I doing things and they're not working? So stop doing nothing, or if you are doing stuff that's not working, stop doing that over and over again, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Number two, treat your marketing with the same urgency and respect that you do photographing a client. It's kind of like what I said at the beginning, right? When you wake up in the morning, think of yourself as a marketer and seller of photographic services first. Well, treat your marketing with the same or even greater urgency as you do photographing a client. Now, if you had a photographic session in the books for today with a client, would you be there with your camera ready to rock? You bet you would. So if you're not doing enough with your marketing, or it's not being as effective as you'd like it to be, you're probably not putting that marketing in your calendar like you would an appointment with a client. So make sure that you treat it with that utmost respect. And Dad and Tom, I'll come back to you and let you talk about any of these key points that you may have. Tom, I'm pretty sure you're going to want to talk about that one we just said, because
Sure.
you treat your marketing certainly with the same utmost urgency and respect as you do photographing a client. Define very clearly for yourself what, quote, the right people means for you. Now, I want to be very clear here. Anyone that knows me, Tom, and my dad at all knows that we are not about lumping people together, giving certain people better advantage than other people, anything like. We are all about everything being as equal as possible for everyone, that everyone has the same opportunities as possible. We don't live in a world where that is possible all the time, but that's what we strive for. So when I say define what it means for the right people, I by no means mean, well, I just want to photograph people who are like I am, that are just like me, you know, whatever that means to you, okay? No, of course not. When we say the right people, it is what brings you joy as a photographer when you're photographing a client? What is it that you love about it? And I'm sure part of it is when you get a great sale and it allows you to make a great living so you can keep doing this for as long as you would like. Of course, that's great. But also it can mean how easy is the client to work with? Are they enjoying this? Are they emotionally driven, or are they just, you know, hey, I'm just looking for the cheapest thing around, you know, whatever it is. That's what we're talking about. What my dad talks a lot about, warm fuzzies and cold pricklies, right? Well, you know, number one probably on our list is for, you know, who the right quote unquote type of client for us is they're not a cold prickly. I can tell you that. That does not mean that we will never photograph a cold prickly, or that somebody who's a cold prickly doesn't deserve to have a photograph created. We have to dig a little deeper and see, okay, how much of them is a cold prickly, and is that warm fuzzy just waiting to kind of come out? And can we discover that as we're talking with them? Cold prickly, for anyone who doesn't know, is just somebody who's like, you know, well, I just want to know how much I get and how much does it cost, and it better be cheap, and I need it done this weekend, or you just not, you know, it's all facts, it's all just cold. Obviously there's not an emotional connection to these potential images, or at least they don't realize that there is, as much as somebody who's a warm fuzzy. They're caring, they're emotional, they cry at movies, they love their family, all of these different things. Okay, so define that for you, and the more specific you can be when defining that, the better off you're going to be. Stop dreading marketing and start embracing it, or do what I like to call gamifying it. I didn't come up with that term. People have talked about gamifying systems for a long time. Think of it like a game. Let yourself enjoy it as if you're playing a game, especially when you're doing marketing that isn't going to break the bank. That's not going to take tens of thousands of dollars to do one marketing campaign. Then you can gamify it and you can go, you know what, I'm going to try something a little wacky here on Facebook. I'm going to do this little boosted post. I'm going to spend $10 to boost it, and that's it. I'm going to see what happens. It's something I wouldn't normally do. And then keep track of it, gamify it. And when you gamify something, it means you're giving yourself a score. So you got to keep track of how things are working. And it becomes fun when you actually look at the results that you're getting, see what things are working, what things aren't, do more of the things that are working. You get a higher score at the end of your game, which translates into dollars and more enjoyment doing your work. Don't market. Don't market, connect instead. Anytime you sit down and go, time for me to work on marketing, I want you to instead say, all right, time for me to sit down and start connecting with people, building an emotional connection, building a rapport, right? That mindset is going to treat you well. It's going to not only make it more enjoyable for you, but it's also going to make you a much better quote unquote marketer. And last but not least, go for baby steps, not one giant leap for mankind. Before Neil Armstrong got to take that one giant leap for mankind, a thousands of people had to take thousands, if not millions, of baby steps to get him to that step. So always think of these as baby steps. Now, gentlemen, we could talk for hours on this one slide here, but I want to give each of you an opportunity, starting with Tom, to add anything that you might want to add here.
Yeah, I'll just pick out, great job. I'll pick out 2 and 4. They kind of go together for me. I don't know if anyone listening, any of our students do this. I will sometimes wake up in the middle of the night. I have a piece of paper by the bed or something to write on. I'll go, oh man, that's a great idea. Now, we aren't reinventing the wheel because we have a system, but the wording and the approach to our marketing can change and be fresh. Recently, I had a very successful one where I just said, you can pay the creation fee in raspberries. I don't know if you remember that, because I love raspberries. All right, it sounds silly. It's like here in Maine, people bringing a chicken in. Hey, how many chickens is your creation fee? But people call me because it caught their attention. All right, only one person brought in a bunch of raspberries, and they still wanted to pay me. But the point is that anything that's new and fresh, but also that makes you excited, because it is fun. It is gamifying is exactly the word I would use, because it literally is like when I was younger and played Monopoly. You would have a excitement about what can I do here? What can I do to make this work? That's the fun. And for me personally, over all these years, is marketing is as fun and rewarding as the photography is. I love creating things that people respond to. And it's like cooking. I love to cook and see people enjoy it. Well, if you do marketing, people actually will tell you, I really enjoyed it. I had someone write this morning about something, and they said, boy, I tell you, I've been a follower of yours for years, and I've always enjoyed your posts, feel like we're friends, and now it's time for me to ask you about photography. So they've waited, it was like 8 years. By the way, last thing I'll say is the photo of me holding the camera there. I like that, but my left eye is closed. Can you Photoshop that left eye open? And on that, I'll hand it off to Charles.
Oh, well, thank you, Tom. The main thing that I feel is so important and that most people miss is that I have positioned myself in the marketplace as a romantic, emotional, warm, fuzzy, sensitive artist. That is the one unique factor that separates me from all the other photographers, at least in my state and most likely in the country, except for a few. I'm looking only for very warm, fuzzy people who want something emotional, soft, very, very sensitive. And that's where I have chosen to position myself. And it's taken me decades to do it by showing exhibits all over the community of warm, fuzzy, sensitive images that most people will look at. Like I remember one of my favorite images where I created a portrait of the mother and her new baby. And it was all in white. She had a white nightgown on and the baby had white outfit on. And she's holding the baby with her hand up against her face, and both of their eyes are closed. It's very sensitive. It was one I used on exhibits for years because everybody loved it. But you can see where a cold prickly would look at that and say, look at that. They both blinked at the same time. I mean, that's not my target market. I don't want to work with someone who thinks that was a mistake. This is sensitivity. I want viewers to be able to feel how soft that baby's face is and how touching it to her face and looking down and eyes closed and the baby was sleeping. That's what I'm all about. That's where I have positioned myself in the marketplace, because that is what I'm all about. So if you want a way to separate yourself from all the other photographers in the area, in my humble opinion, position yourself as a warm, fuzzy, loving, sensitive, romanticist artist.
Beautiful. Nice stuff, gentlemen. Thank you. Now let's talk about the formula for success in client attraction. So we've got a little formula here. I'm going to sketch it out for you here on my whiteboard. Look at that. Look how fast I can draw. Confidence.
Oof.
And knowledge and benefits, which will lead to wonderful marketing ideas, will utilizing warmth and being genuine, taking action. All of those steps together will turn into the best booked clients possible. Confidence, knowledge and benefits, warmth and being genuine, and taking action. Those are at the core, the kind of four main things that you need to spark those ideas that will lead to the best booked clients possible. So Tom, why don't you kind of walk us through each of these? Because I know you had some wonderful things you wanted to say about each of these four main areas here.
Yeah, let's start with confidence. Nice flow chart there. That's very good, by the way.
Thank you. I draw it very fast, as you can see.
You work for NASA. Look at that baby get off the ground. If you have confidence in all your prospect interactions, when people are calling, messaging, if you have a system, as we teach you, and ahead of time, only a small percentage of the folks that get a hold of you will call, and that's actually will work with you, and that's a good thing. So have confidence as you talk with them as if they are the one. They may or may not be, but have that smile, have that tone of voice when you recite and talk about what you're going through with your telecharts. Have that confidence that makes them say, this person, he or she really is someone I'd like to work with, because it sounds like I trust them, because we're trying to build that trust. And if the prospect doesn't book with you, the first one that you talk to, you just have the confidence to know it means you're one step closer to the prospect that will become a great client, because you have a system that kind of lets the ones walk that probably wouldn't have enjoyed working with you or made the investments we need, and spread the word about you. And the ones that do work with you, that confidence, they'll tell people, boy, this person really knows what they're talking about, and they're really going to be great to work with. All right, let's move on to a little knowledge. So to have that confidence, you need to be armed with knowledge. And this is being prepared to how to respond to emails, instant messages, and telephone calls, of course. And the telecharts are the key to that. And of course, our email system. So you're not fumbling for information or stammering or stuttering, and which I used to do. Role play and practice and study the telecharts, because that knowledge really does go hand in hand with confidence. If you are ready to roll and someone says, well, how much for this? Or why don't you do that? Or can I call back later? You know what to say, you know what to do, with a smile, relaxed, confident, and that comes across, because people can sense desperation. How many times when I started, I wanted to say, and probably it was in my voice, I really need the money, I hope you'll book with me. And that's not a good way to have people say, great, let's do this. So you want to be armed with that knowledge and make sure that you are ready to talk and answer anything with confidence. I'll keep going here. If you want that warmth, that light bulb looks warm. That's an incandescent. You can't get those anymore. If you want the right people to work with you, and this goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about a minute ago with warm fuzzies, Chuck was mentioning. I learned that a long time ago. I found that if I wanted the right people to work with that were warm fuzzies, the images that we showed in our marketing, as well as the words that we use, would reflect warmth and a friendly approach to the work. So the words, images, tone of voice when you're talking to a prospect should be kind and helpful. Chuck taught me something so many years ago that I passed on to anyone that worked for me on the telephone. That is, I'd like to be able to walk into the room and hear you chatting with a prospect and not know if it's a friend or a prospect, because you're really getting along so well and you're asking nice questions and your tone of voice. And don't worry about somebody giving you a hard time. This is where the warmth and being genuine comes in. Don't be adversarial. If someone calls and asks a question, don't think, well, how can they ask if they want digitals? I wouldn't be asked that. I'm an artist. They have certain reasons, and asking questions will tell you what those reasons are and let you cover those objections, again, in a friendly, professional way, but it shows that you care about them. And so the right people that we want to work with will appreciate the warmth, and the cold pricklies will just say, I don't care about that. Just how much is it and how quick can I get it? And that's not the type of person that you want to work with. Next, taking action. We have to make sure that all this sounds great, but if you're not taking action in your marketing, if you're not learning the merchandising and the product, if you're not doing a great job when you do the photography and getting all this in place, it sounds good, but it's like buying a self-help book and you put it on the shelf. A lot of people buy them, feel better about themselves, but they never do anything. So all this sounds great, but unless you're going to do this and put it into action in your life, your business is not going to prosper. And those things, you add all that together, it's like a big pot. We threw that in and stirred it up. That will turn into the best book clients.
Perfectly said, Tom. Thank you. Very excellent points.
Thank you.
So let's talk now just for a couple minutes. I can't resist this, about the top 3 most rapid and responsive ways to have the right people contact you immediately. How do you get someone to take action immediately, and how do you get and find the right people? How do you know, well, there's 3, I mean, I like a tripod. I use a tripod all the time, but there's 3 legs to that tripod, and here's your tripod. The first and best one is the VIPs, very important patrons. No matter how new you are or how many years you've been in photography, either way, you have some clients with whom you have worked before. And that is what we refer to as our VIPs, our very important patrons. And once they work with us, they become clients, patrons, lovers of what we do for the rest of their life. Okay, they are always a VIP, and we maintain and stay in touch with them. And this is something that is so easily missed because you're so busy. We're so busy doing all these things that we forget about the clients with whom we've worked before, who loved what you did happily. Okay, maybe it hurt a little to invest what they invested, but they were happy about it because they loved what you did and they liked you and respected you and admired you. And so VIPs, you see, it is so difficult to get a new client in the door. It's extremely difficult. You all know that. Much easier if once they're in the door and they like you and they actually hire you and you actually wow, that's valuable now, because they're so easy to stay in touch with and so easy to help them over that little teeny fence to work with you again, because they already know they like you and respect you and loved your work. So VIPs, so you stay in touch with them by emails, you stay in touch with them by, I always tell the consulting people that we work with, we do a lot of consulting and coaching. And I always say, if times are really, really tough, pick up your telephone and call your VIPs. Just call them. Say, yeah, but it's all, automatic, digital. They see who's calling, blah. Right, they see who's calling. They know who you are because they've already worked with you. They know who you are. And then if they happen to decide, nope, they just push the little button and ignore the call, it'll go to voicemail. Leave them a friendly voicemail and let them know, I was just calling to see how you were. Haven't talked to you in a long time. Hope you got through COVID okay. How's everything going with the holidays coming up? Hope you have a nice Thanksgiving. Just wanted to chat with you for a minute. Give me a call back. I love to hear from you. And you leave them the phone number. Okay? I mean, this is simple, basic stuff, but it's so basic that a lot of people forget it. And then the second best way to get new clients, as well as VIPs, is with your exhibits. If your work isn't exhibited all over your community where your target market gets her hair done, goes to a movie, has lunch out with friends, goes out to dinner, shops, just think of her life and what she does, and then go there and get exhibits in the community, because this you're doing especially worked extremely well for myself and for Tom, because we have 12 permanent exhibits. That was my goal, was to have 12 permanent exhibits and several traveling exhibits, all with warm, artistic, sensitive, emotional images in them. That's going to attract warm fuzzies. The cold pricklies will say, oh, look at that. The guy can't even focus. Look at that. It's all soft. Give me a break. Don't ever want to work with him. That's perfectly fine. Not everybody is going to love what you do, but you do need to be you. Don't try to be all things to all people. So by exhibiting your finest work, only your finest work, the things you are the most proud of all over can't say enough about it. And it's instant. I mean, literally, I'll go and I'll put up an exhibit. By the time I get back to the studio, there's a message or two on my answering voicemail because that they saw it. They saw it. They loved it. They picked up a card or a lift card and they made a phone call. I mean, it's just amazing. And then, of course, Facebook boosted posts, and we have the Facebook King with us today. So there's very little that I can say about it, but I will let Tom say a few things because the man really knows social media. I mean, he is truly great at this. So Tom, a couple of great pointers on boosted posts and stuff like that, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. You know, in the advent of Facebook and social media over the last 10, 12 years, I've been on there about 13 years now. It did something that I heard a show the other day on marketing. I didn't even tell you two about this. They said talk about priming, and priming was a word in advertising that meant your presence was kind of known. So when something came up, a client had already heard of you or a prospect had already heard of you. It's just very involved, so I won't go too much into it. But Facebook has allowed me to has been both a primer for me, meaning that like the gentleman contacted me this morning, I've seen you out there for years because, you know, we talk, you can't be like Pepsi or Coke and do institutional marketing, meaning every day you spend thousands of dollars just so people know you're there. We need to do direct response so that when you market, we get calls immediately. We don't have the budgets or the desire to do that institutional. But Facebook for really free lets you kind of get that institutional feel so that when you do market, people feel as if, gee, you've been around forever. I was at a restaurant the other day for a birthday party for a good friend of mine, a very nice high-end restaurant. Walked in, got chatting, looked at the walls, started talking to the maitre d' and explained who I was. Oh, I know you, Mr. Morelli. Oh gosh, followed you for years. I said, you know, you should have some nice portraits up here. We talked a little bit. I got an exhibit. I mean, it wasn't even there for that. And if you talk with that confidence and people know who you are, Facebook can help that. Now, Facebook boosted posts are huge for me. I invest very little per campaign and get tens of thousands of dollars worth. So definitely we've done programs on that. Facebook, I post every day. We do that ratio, human interest, fun stuff, nice stuff, family stuff, and then an offer. And then again, repeat as necessary, the shampoo method. So don't ignore social media, and it's hooked to Instagram. I get calls from Instagram as well because they see the same marketing.
Yeah, and in case, you know, you are maybe a little bit new to this as a member, you go to the vault and you put in the word in the search bar, boosted post, just those two words, and it will pull right up a whole bunch of boosted posts that Tom has been kind enough to share with our members, where you can get an idea of how he does it, what he says, what images he shows. Holy smokes, you'll get a master's degree in marketing just by going through the things that are on that vault. But that's if you're interested in boosted posts. And on VIPs, if you just type in VIPs, VIP emails for the holidays, for example, you just do those VIP emails for the holidays, it pops right up for you and shows you fantastic emails that you can send to your VIPs right now between now and the holidays. And of course, there's lots of other things on there as well that has nothing to do with the holidays. All if you just put in VIP emails for the holidays. And then about exhibits.
Are you absolutely certain that if they type that in, that will come up right away? Those exact words?
Absolutely certain. I checked it all myself.
Okay.
And then for your exhibits, if you type in how to use exhibits and displays, that's it. Just type in how to use exhibits and displays. It will pull up a fantastic presentation where and several others as well, on exhibits and displays and how to get them, what to say, how to do it, you've got a whole master's degree at your fingertips right there on the online vault.
All right.
So those are the three main things, in my opinion, that are the most rapid and get the best response: VIPs, exhibits, and Facebook boosted posts.
All right. So now you want to make sure, again, that you are setting aside time each week to devote solely to your photography marketing. Now, this is another major step here. Marketing doesn't happen by accident. It certainly doesn't happen on its own. It's something that takes action, just like photographing a client. So make sure that you are setting aside specific time each week to devote to your photography marketing. For us, our rule of thumb is always that you should be devoting at a bare minimum 20% of your time in your photography business solely to marketing. Now, that's just that's a starting point. I mean, it should be more. If you could invest 40 or 50% of your time, that would be even better. But a bare minimum of 20%. That means if you're working, an 8-hour day, right? Then you better be devoting, what would that be? 2 hours, little less than 2 hours a day, right?
Yep.
To your marketing. If you're working 5 days a week, you should be devoting one of those 5 days or the equivalent thereof to your marketing. Ask yourself that hard question. Am I doing that right now? Am I devoting at least 20% of my time? And am I writing it in my calendar and treating it as if it were a client? Not letting anything, not getting there and going, oh, it's on my calendar every day, but you know what? I'm going to go do this instead. I'm going to go work. You wouldn't do that with a client. Don't do it with your marketing. So very important. Now, Dad, you want to talk a bit about this? Again, everything we're talking about today will work for you in your marketing year-round, regardless of what type of marketing you're doing. But we did want to show you something very specific to the holidays, and wonderful if you have anyone coming to you that either you won't be able to photograph before the holidays, before Christmas, before Hanukkah, before any of the major, holidays that are coming up here at the end of the year, or people that they would like to give this as a gift for the holiday season, but the person that's going to be the gift receiver, we want them to be in the portrait. So Dad, why don't you talk about this, the gift plaque?
Yeah, this has really been helpful for me over the years. And Tom also uses something similar to this. He does it with frames and like a beautiful certificate. But this is where, like what Todd said. So if you don't have time to do it, or somebody's calling, 2 days before Christmas or something special coming up, maybe let's say it's Russ's anniversary, something like that. He and his wife, and Russ wants to give his wife something really beautiful. This is perfect. We call it the gift plaque. I don't like gift certificates. I don't like the words, I just don't like that. So I call it a gift plaque. And in the original 1970s, when we started our business, we actually mounted it on wood, and then made the edges all kind of worn off and stuff, so it looked really cool. And that's why I started by calling it the gift plaque. Well, then, I learned, gee, this is too much work and I've got too many people that want it. And so I just continued to call it a gift plaque, but instead we just put it on this beautiful parchment paper. Todd did the artwork, put in, I don't know if you can see them on your device, but there's just these beautiful soft lines behind the words and everything, and then prints it out on a printer on parchment paper, and you put it in a frame. So very effective, because people who are at the last minute and they see your exhibit, or the last minute and they're a VIP and you had sent them an email for the holidays or whatever, and they go, wow, that would really be great for me. And they contact you and you can talk about your gift plaque. Tom, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just I find this appeals also around the holidays to men who are not normally our target market. But I get a fair amount of men who call, and they're usually dads, and they have a wife and family, and they're just like, man, what can I get? And part of my marketing talks about, be a hero this Christmas, and it talks about imagine Christmas morning when this is open to tears and things like that. It's because it's a very warm, fuzzy gift that can be given to parents. Just think, if you have parents that are retired, elderly, what's one thing they can't buy? And that's time with their family. That's one of their biggest complaints is, I just want time. I don't need anything else. Well, a family portrait means they get to spend time. They're in the portrait. It's on their wall. So talking emotionally in warm tones about that really has people investing in these big time around Christmas, because again, they're looking for solutions. They hate to say no to someone. So, hi, do you still have time to do a family portrait and get it back in time for Christmas? I don't, but here's what's even better. And then we talk about the benefit of this, because they can give this to the person that's going to maybe be in the photograph. So this is a great idea. I learned this again from Chuck.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, let's talk about the big 6 marketing musts for all approaches. So these are things that kind of Tom came up with also that he wanted to be sure to talk about, aspects that will apply in all of your marketing as you're going forward, regardless of when you're doing it. There's some examples of Tom's work, lovely graduating seniors, babies, photographs families, how to make sure that you're busy year round. So let's go to number 1 here. Great photographs. Dad, I'm going to let you and Tom talk about this one because it is, I put it as number 1, not necessarily because it's the most important. We like to think that it's the most important, absolutely, and it is important by all means, but it's the one that I think would resonate with every photographer because this is why you became a photographer in the first place.
Yep. Great photographs. And Tom's already referred to that word great during today's event, and I agree with him. It doesn't really say much. What do we mean by great photographs? And the first thing that comes to my mind is what Donald Jack, the great Donald Jack, who I cannot thank enough for how he affected my life, taught me ESP, expression sells photographs. You've got to have expressions that are sensitive and meaningful and that just draw the parents or the whole family, whatever kind of subject you have in an image. You want to have these incredible, natural, real expressions that your clients see on their family members and loved ones' images. And in real life. And so that's the first thing. A great photograph has great expressions that will mean something to your clients. And see how just these with the baby plan, look at these images on how their expressions are so incredible, and a sensitive, warm, fuzzy person is going to see those images and the expressions, and the one with the baby sort of sleeping there with the hands behind, that is beautiful. And so you don't always need look at the camera and smile, but we want natural expressions. So that involves your human psychology techniques and your really your ability with people, what I call people skills, so that people feel natural and comfortable. And then the other thing, of course, is the background or setting and the lighting and the posing. And that's what I call the big 4. We got expressions, lighting, posing, and settings. And those are the big 4. And then when you're doing your marketing, you only show your best work, which I've already mentioned. Tom, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I usually, this will first of all sound the land of the obvious, but when you're going to market a certain line, whether it's families or babies or high school seniors, obviously that's the photograph you pick. That sounds kind of normal to you and I, but I've seen campaigns where people put a landscape up and they're like, photography by Tim. Sorry, Tim, if you're out there, not talking about you. But it will only relate that, we photograph babies and families, and I'm like, that photograph doesn't even go with what they're talking about. So the other factor I go for is I call the real scientific term, the awe factor, AWWW, which is, oh, that is so cute. Whether it's a baby or, oh, that is so beautiful, or, oh, look at that family, they look so great. I want that command to look, as I think the photographer Mortensen called it years ago, which is you stop, because you got to get them to stop and look at your display in your target market where it's displayed, or on your email blast, or on your marketing piece, or your direct mail, or on the Facebook or other social media. Got to have a photograph that makes people stop and go, wow, I got to look at that. That is really cute. And if they have a child or a family or a high school senior, and the photograph is great. And the last thing I'll say about that is there are 50 megapixel cameras now in phones. So the war of the megapixels is over. They also have aftermarket software, some in the phone, some aftermarket, that will give you bokeh, that will do everything for you. So you have to hone your skills to the point where you still have that human element. You're the photographer, you're creating work that they can't create for themselves by, a guy with a long arm doing a selfie. There still will be a need, as far as I'm concerned, for a person to take the photographs and have that skill. So make sure your finest work is on there, because you need people to stop and look at it and go, wow, I can't do that.
You can put the best And inexpensive and newest, paintbrush in somebody's hands does not mean that they're going to be able to create a Rembrandt.
Right.
These photographs, I don't care. You could have 1,000 megapixel camera. Doesn't mean you can take photographs like this.
Right.
You know,
right.
you just can't. There are no, as of right now, there are no filters or AI that will create photographs with this kind of look and emotion. So that's the key, and that's your marketing. That's the first glance. That's the thing people will see first. But it's not enough. You've got to couple it with some other things, and those are words, which brings us to number 2, headlines. Make sure that you're using headlines in your marketing, regardless of what marketing you're doing. Even on Facebook, make sure that the first sentence in your Facebook post, you treat it like a headline, something that is designed to get their attention, let them know that this is going to appeal and apply to them. And that, coupled with your photographs, starts to become a wonderful 1-2 punch of fantastic marketing. Here are a few headline examples for you that will, get people's attention. Number 1, don't choose a family photographer until you read this special report. 7 myths and misconceptions about picking the right family photographer. Now that's going to appeal to certain types of people, certain people that are looking for something specific. It's called a curious unknown that is used in that headline. They want to know, what are those 7 myths and misconceptions? Because I probably have some of those. I want to make sure I pick the right photographer. And it's weeding out the people that don't care very much, because they'll look at that and go, well, I don't want to read something about this. I just want to find out who the cheapest photographer is in town. That's great. Don't call us, because we're not that photographer. Number 2, they laughed at me when I told them I would bring tears to people's eyes with my photography, but they aren't laughing anymore. That's a very famous headline back from the early 1900s that has been carried through to almost every major industry you can imagine. Works extremely well. It's called the "They Laughed at Me" headline. It's a great one. Here's another example. Here's a fantastic opportunity on a silver platter, only for 5 of my very best clients, to have a beautiful family portrait created at a huge savings. This is a headline example that we use when we have done a what we call our silver platter mailing, where we actually mailed a silver platter in the mail to these potential clients or VIPs. If you're doing them to your VIPs, this is great. Now, to let you know, the silver platters weren't real silver, and they cost what? Like, they were like $1 a piece, $1.50 a piece, something like that.
Yep.
So it didn't break the bank, but you're sending these to very specific people, and that headline tied right into what we were sending them, and then in a sales letter kind of format. Here's another one. As you can see, I've attached a dollar bill to this letter. Why have I done this? It can be done by attaching a real dollar bill to this letter and sending it out to them in the mail. Don't underestimate the power of the mail, by the way. Do not underestimate the power of the mail, because not as many people are using it anymore. It's as powerful as it's ever been. Okay, yes, it takes a little bit more time. It's a little bit more expensive than just sending a post out on Facebook, but it can be very, very effective, because people still love to get something different and interesting in the mail that catches their attention. But you could use a real dollar bill there, or you can put a fake dollar bill up there, that is obviously fake, so no one thinks you're trying to counterfeit. And it can be very effective. How I will help you tell the story of your child through emotional, sensitive portraiture. Now, there's a great emotional headline right there. So those are just some examples, very different. Each one of them is very different, appealing in a different sort of way, but those headlines are important. Use them. Make sure you're talking on an emotional level, which is going to bring us to number 3. And Tom, I'm going to let you take this one: emotional and persuasive words.
Yes, and as anyone who's been a student for any length of time, and if you haven't been, you'll hear it multiple times in multiple presentations, that people invest in portraits for emotional reasons. So we want to show the prospect that we're a family person, because we all are emotional about our families. We realize the value of their time, how quickly their family is changing. If that doesn't make you choke up, nothing will. If you have a family, asking questions about their family, relating similar remarks about how similar your family experiences are to theirs. People like to work with people whom they like and whom they are like, as far as, you have a family too, you understand. Wow, you know what I'm going through, the late nights, the child going off to college, the first prom, grandparents that are aging, all those things that you can relate to. And if this is into your marketing copy, whether it's a postcard or an email or your Facebook posts or even in your conversations. When someone calls, you talked about headlines a second ago, and this kind of ekes into that. If you're on the telephone, asking someone, if you don't mind me asking, when's the last time you had a family portrait taken? One of those questions, that's a headline in a way, because your headline could be a question. Do you love your family as much as I love mine? Question mark. That could be a headline. The headlines and the copy, of course, I will say this, sounds obvious again, must go with the photograph. So a lot of times a little play on words, if there's a smiling baby, something to relate to why the baby's smiling first. That baby knows I know about the best dad baby jokes of all. That's why this little one's smiling. That emotional persuasive copy lets them know you're not a salesperson trying to sell them something. Come in now, and 8x10s are $9.95 for a week. It's not that. We don't really get into that. That's turns their brain into that right brain logical mode, which we don't want at this point. So emotional persuasive copy tells them you would be a good person to work with, and here's why. And then all the persuasive words that you use are part of the copy. And do this with everything, whether it's online marketing, lift cards, social media, emails, snail mail, phone calls, whatever. This works in all of those situations.
Yeah, and you want to make sure that I know what some people are thinking. They're thinking, I don't want to be that kind of a photographer and that kind of a business person where I have to constantly make all these deadlines and make these offers and all. Well, you can do it in an elegant way. Okay, you don't have to make it all yucky, and you can make it nice. You can use nice words that still convey the same message, that there is a limited quantity. I only have room for 5 clients. That's all the room I have for. We are so busy, and I'm so happy and excited and love what I do, but we only have room for 5 more. Be one of the first 5 and take advantage of this special offer. But it's not hypey, jump up and down, exclamation points and stuff like that.
Speaking of offers, we need to have a powerful and compelling offer. Now, that goes perfectly. Chuck, boy, we're right in sync today. And I don't mean the kitchen sink, although everything is in here, including the kitchen sink. A strong offer. You have to give people to get up and make that call or make that first decision, because large decisions, big decisions are made by a series of smaller decisions. People don't wake up one day, I'm going to hire a photographer and do this and invest this much. They just, maybe, they have some reason for that. So the strong offer is one of the biggest reasons that they might take you up on this, to at least find out more information. So in our case, we don't discount portrait prices, at least in our marketing, but often the creation fee, we'll say, normal creation fee to photograph a family is $200. This month, first 5 callers, it's $5 off, or 50% off, whatever the offer is that you want to craft. And we have a ton of them on the online vault that you can look at as examples. But it's like a stepping stone to the marketing conversation, so that when someone sees that, hears that, reads that, they go, boy, especially when it's coupled with the things we're going to talk about post this in a minute, a strong offer can be a real good reason for them to go, okay, I'm in the emotional mode, but boy, I don't know. Oh, wait, I can get half off. Boy, okay, let's check this out. And if without that, if an offer is not in there, and I see that missing a lot, I have a lot of people who say, how come my marketing's not working? Take a look at this Facebook ad. And I see it and I'm like, what's the offer? Why should I call? You need to wake up every day and say, why should people call me? And one of those reasons is that you're offering something, and as you'll see here, not everyone can access that.
Yeah, and that brings us to number 5, which is what we've been bouncing around for the last couple of minutes anyway, is that limited time and limited availability. But again, you can word it in such a way that it is not hypey sounding. But you have to somehow create, the real reason for having an offer is so you can have a deadline. Frankly, that's it, because that's what causes people to take action now. But we're not going to hype it all up like crazy, okay? Save $50, but you must call by 3 o'clock tonight or else, and exclamation points everywhere. No, but you're just mentioning it, I want you to be sure to understand that. And again, if you go and look at the stuff on the online vault, such as the VIP emails, that I was talking about a few minutes ago, that you'll see how Tom does this so that it comes across, the guy really is good. He really is in demand. He's really busy. And because of that, he can only offer this to so many people and only until such and such a day. And it makes perfect sense. And it just helps people, like he was just mentioning, it just helps them to say, yeah, okay, I'm gonna take the next step, which in our case, of course, is to call us on the telephone, preferably. That's why we always give them that option. And then, our next step is to get together with them and have a chat. Just chat. Let's chat about this. No charge, no obligation. Let's see how you're just gonna love this stuff. I can't wait to talk with you. How about next Tuesday at 3:30? That kind of a thing. Very important though. Limited time, very busy. Tom's stuff always is coming from a point of view that he is extremely busy. He's in demand, and people want to work with someone who is in demand. And so they will contact him. Very, very important points right there.
Number 6 is the call to action. In marketing, this is where you're asking them to call today, right now, right this moment. In a phone call, this is where you do a trial close to ask them to take the next baby step and meet in person for a design consultation. We are not looking to book a session on the phone. Remember that concept of taking baby steps that we talked about earlier in this program. But you have to have calls to action, which basically, a call to action is simply letting them know what to do next. What is the next step? You'd be shocked at the number of marketing messages that I see on a daily basis, both in and outside the photographic world, that don't have a call to action. They just splash some stuff up there and then don't say what to do next. And don't think it's obvious. See, that's the other big mistake, is thinking that, well, isn't it going to be obvious what they do next? If they're interested, they're going to click on my website. Well, maybe you don't want them to go to your website. You want them to pick up the phone and call you. If that's what you want, you got to do, hey, tell them, pick up the phone and call me right now before things get too busy and you forget about it. And another year goes by without you doing something that will be this powerful for your family. My phone number is such and such. Call me right now. You've got to have a call to action. Don't think it's obvious. And depending on how long your marketing message is, you may have more than one call to action. You may restate it. You might have it in there again. But just make sure that you know what that call to action is, that you state that call to action very clearly, that you give them a reason to take that call to action now and not think about it and hopefully come back to it later. Because if they don't take that action, when they see your marketing message, there's less than a 5 to 10% chance that they'll ever come back to it and do it later. It's a tiny number. You built that energy, you built that excitement, you built that rapport and emotional connection. Get them to take that baby step toward working with you right now with a powerful call to action. Dad, anything you want to add about that? And then Tom, anything that you might want to add on top of it?
No, I totally agree with everything you just said, Todd. Very well put. Thanks.
I equate it to someone walking by. If you had a brick and mortar place and you're out front and people are chatting with you and they're asking you questions, you're like, well, it sounds like you got a great family. Come on in, let's sit down for a minute. You're inviting them in a gentle way. So it doesn't have to be a hardcore, you better call now or else. But it's just really a warm, friendly thing to say, if you were my sister or brother, I would tell you, let's do this. Let's chat. Let's get together. And so again, whether it's on the telephone using the telecharts or on any of your marketing pieces, it just sort of takes the person by the hand gently and says, hey, come on, let's chat for a minute. Let's talk about this. Because I remember buying a suit years ago. It was like $700, and the guy was fitting me. It was one where they actually do the cuffs. It wasn't off the rack. Geez, you look great in this. And he just kept telling me, what do you think? And so he made several trial closes. I was trying this on. I was like, and his calls to actions were all over the place. And I bought the thing and I looked great in it, by the way. And so and he told me that. He's like, geez, man, you look like $1 million, And I wore that to 100, probably 200 weddings. So the call to action really does let your prospect know that you want to work with them and you'd like to, at least in a gentle, non-obligation way, no pressure, just chat with them either by the phone at first or in person.
Nice. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, All right, that was a lot of stuff that we crammed into about an hour there on the marketing for your photography business. I want to give each of you an opportunity to say any last minute things that you might have before we wrap up today. I will start, and then Tom, I'll turn it to you. Dad, you can wrap us up here. First of all, I hope you enjoyed this program. If you got to this point, you watched all the way through it, and I commend you for that. That is a massive thing, that you understand how important this subject matter is to the lifeblood of your business. So you watch this all the way through. Now take action on it. That's the next thing. So I'm going to recommend very strongly that right now, this second, as you're listening to us wrap this up, you get on your computer, you get on your phone, you get on your little binder, wherever it is that you keep your notes of what you're going to be working on today, tomorrow, the next day, your calendar, whatever it is. Put something on there that is taking the next step toward implementing something that you got from today's program. Something, a baby step, right? Take a baby step toward implementing what you got here today, and keep that going. Remember the principle of CANI, C-A-N-I, which stands for constant and never-ending improvement. I learned that from Tony Robbins years and years ago. It applies as much now as it ever has, because the big changes in life don't usually happen overnight with one giant leap. They usually happen over a period of time with a series of small steps that all add up to a big change. Tom?
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I'm trying to think back. I guess it was Chuck that just taught me that, you know, you can, if you don't take action, this information will sit here and just kind of go, well, what was that all about? So you have to do this. The self-help books were really big in the 70s, 80s, before there were books. You know, I got kind of lost in my thought there because Todd, you mentioned oxygen and love earlier. This has something to do with something I'm going to say anyway. Remember the song "Love Is Like Oxygen"? You know, I probably don't remember. The band Sweet, 1978.
I do.
Never mind. Yeah. The train's off the tracks. But anyway, we're here to help you. This program is everything that I do every day. If there's a step missing and something's not working for you, one of those steps probably isn't being accessed. You're not doing it or putting it in there. You're leaving it out, whether it's a consultation or a call to action. All these pieces work together. So you can't just expect one thing. If somebody says to me, you know, marketing doesn't really work, and we examine it, there's always some key piece missing. So you have to put that all together. And that's what today was about. Today would be a masterclass just by itself in this 1 hour on how to get your photography business up and running. And if you're new and you don't have any samples to go out, get friends, neighbors, relatives, let them pose for you. Let's get some family groups, some babies, some children, some toddlers, some high school seniors. Get those samples made and get them out in your community, and you'll be amazed, because displays and exhibits really are still, for me, the most public face of my business. So make sure you access those. Other than that, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here today. Thanks so much, everybody.
Well, thank you, Tom, for being here, because I know you're extremely busy, and that's a great issue to have. Congratulations on that, and thank you, Todd. And one of my favorite books is Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. If you've been with us for any length of time, I'm sure you've heard me talking about them before. But I just popped open to one page here, which I thought was so applicable. He says, so you've got a problem. Well, that's good. Why? Because repeated victories over your problems are the rungs on your ladder of success. Nicely said, Mr. Napoleon Hill. So every time you see an ad for the new movie coming out, Napoleon, don't think about Napoleon Bonaparte. Think about Napoleon Hill, because that man has had a huge effect on me in my life through my entire career. And his words are so beautifully put. I mean, that was really a nice sentence. Repeated victories over your problems are the rungs on the ladder of success. Wow, like that. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. Take action. It was a pleasure to spend time with you today. We wish you all the very best, and we'll talk to you again next time. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everyone.